Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains. That's in Missouri, in the USA. Well, I'm sitting over here by the TRS-80 Model 2 today, so you've probably already guessed this video has something to do with the Model 2. Now, when I bought this at Tandy Assembly, somebody said, well, I'm surprised you bought that because, you know, you're the pocket computer guy. So I thought one of the first things I would do with this machine is get these two examples from the big and little end of the Radio Shack spectrum talking together. That's what this video is about, so let's get started. Thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. They not only do PCBs and flex PCBs, they also have 3D printing service, injection molding service, they do CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication. They also have a thriving maker community where you can share projects and check out what other people are doing. For your next project, head on over to PCBWay. So I've got the Model 2 booted up, and this is a Model 2 DOS version 2 disk with just a few text files and basic files that I've created on it. Nothing really special here. I thought I would try to limit my endeavors to start with to things that were just available on the plain old TRS-80 DOS disk and see how far we could go with that. Now I've turned down the light so you can see the screen better. The result of that is you can see my reflection in the screen, but we'll just deal with that. So what I'm going to do now is start up basic because one of the first things we need to do to write a program and send to the pocket computer is create the program with a text editor. After investigating many options, some text editors that were made by Tandy at the time and some other commercial ones, they really stunk. The best one I found was just using BASIC. You can save it as a text file, which works fine. You can't load back in the text file, but that also works. For example, if I type in 10, oops, print, hey, I can't spell my own name. Go to 10. Now, of course, this is standard basic, and this will also work on the Model 2. But this basic, like most basics, doesn't actually check for syntax as you're entering the program. It only does that when you run it. So as long as we don't try to run our program, we can enter all the commands that our PC-2 would take. And I'm going to save this as Hey Whack Bass for base, and we're saving that to the GoText, which you can't see, they're kind of down in that way, and that takes a little while, but it's done. And now I'm going to do a save Hey Whack text, and the extension here is purely for our benefit, so to remind us what type of file it is. Then I'm going to do a $A to save it as ASCII. Now we have just a text version of that file. The advantage to saving the basic version first is we can always load that back up and edit it, whereas we can't load the text version into basic. That doesn't work. It has a merge program, so I could save this program as a text file. I could start writing another basic program and merge the text file into this, but it actually parses the basic at the time and will give up if there's any syntax errors. Okay, so now we have our short little 2-line basic program, and we're going to go back to DOS. On the PC-2, when you're downloading a program as an ASCII file, it knows it's at the end of the file when it sees 2 carriage returns in a row. There's no way to do that automatically in the basic text editor here. TRS-DOS does have an append command, so we can type in append cr, comma, hey whack text. So we're appending file cr into the end of text, and come to think about it, I bet this is not going to work because I think I called that cr whack text. Let's see. Yep, error 24. Okay, so append cr whack text, comma, hey whack text. There we go. Okay, now the cr.text file is a file I created. I couldn't create it in a text editor, so I wrote a basic program that created a file. It wrote a single and then wrote a null string. At the end of each string, BASIC automatically adds a carriage return, so we got a single carriage return. So that gives us a file with a single carriage return that we appended onto the end of hey whack text. Now we have a basic program we can download to the Pocket computer. So now we need to figure out how to do that. Fortunately, there is a terminal program that's part of DOS. So what we can do is use it to send our text file over to the PC-2. We can also use it to communicate with the terminal program that is part of the PC-2's serial interface. The Model 2 also has a program that comes with DOS called Host that allows our remote terminal to control the computer. We can also play with that. I think first we will take a look at the terminal to make sure we can get them both to communicate. We'll use the terminal on both sides. Then we'll transfer the basic file and see that it runs. And then we'll play with Host. Okay, before going into the terminal program, we need to set up our COM port. We do that with setcom A equals, and we use A because there's 2 COM ports, 2400, 8, N, 1. And that enables port A and sets everything up right. Then we can go into terminal. Now, if you're in terminal and you need to go back and make some changes to the port setting, you can always use S and it'll drop you back out to DOS, let you run one command and bring you back into terminal. Over on the Pocket computer, we also need to set up our COM port. So we're going to do set COM 2400 8 N 1. Then we're going to do out stat 0, that sets the handshaking lines, and then we can enter terminal on our Pocket computer. Okay, and then I'm going to hit F4 for enter, and on the PC-2 we will hit T and enter to go into terminal, and it looks like nothing's happening here, but I can type in Hey Birt, and notice that we're seeing that over on the Pocket computer. And if I hit enter on the Pocket computer and then type in Hey YouTube, now, interestingly, the exclamation point didn't carry across. That's curious. Yeah, it doesn't like the punctuation from the PC-2. That's rather odd. Okay, But we've got a basic terminal communications going on between our Model 2 and the PC-2. That's pretty cool. Now let's see if we can transfer that program that we wrote. So on the PC-2, I'm going to press on, which is also the brake key, and then quit. And then I'm going to do a set dev CI, CO. What this does is redirect the cassette input and cassette output routines from the cassette adapter, which we don't have connected to the serial port. Okay. And on our Model 2, we're going to hit brake. And now we need to load our text file into the RAM buffer. So we use G, get disk file into RAM buffer, G, and we called that Hey Whack text. And we can display that with the D command. There's our program. M will bring up the whole menu again. Okay. And on our Pocket computer, we're going to go C, load, small letter, A. A top tip on the Pocket computer, after you press that small letter A, press small again to cancel the lowercase mode. You'll save yourself a lot of grief. Okay, now we'll press enter on the Pocket computer. That'll get it in the receive state. And then on the Model 2, we'll do transmit RAM buffer and enter terminal mode. We'll do X, enter. Now it's sending the program over to the Pocket computer. Unfortunately, the Pocket computer gives us no indication until it's done. The terminal does not either give us any indication, but if we type list on the Pocket computer, oops, I am in run mode. Go into program mode, list, there is our program. Excellent. This worked great with a 2-line program. For a longer program, we're going to need a better terminal program. Let me explain why. When we're sending an ASCII file, a basic file, over to the Pocket computer, it is parsing that and tokenizing it on the fly. As soon as it sees that character return for the end of the file, it parses that line just like you had typed it in. So you have to give it time to do that. And the manual recommends a 2-second delay after the end of each line. Well, with the terminal program that's with TS-DOS, you can't do that. With a really short and simple program, you have just enough time to get a couple lines through, and it works okay. There is another terminal program that I found that will do that. On the Model 2 archive, I'll put the link to that below. The problem is it uses the F1 key on the Model 2 keyboard to enter the menu mode on that, and my F1 key is not working. It works about once every 30 tries. This is a foil and foam type keyboard, so I'll have to rebuild the whole keyboard. We'll make that another video. So for now, we know that we can transfer programs. So we've looked at terminal mode, we've looked at transferring a program, so now we can play with host. That's a lot of fun. Okay, for host, we want our Pocket computer set up and running terminal, just like we did before. And I've had the Model 2 off, so I'll need to reconfigure the serial port. Set com A equals 2400 8N1. Okay, and now we can go into host. Oops, host 1. Okay. Civil remote brake key. No, I'm not going to use that anyhow, so it doesn't matter, but now we are in host mode. And on the Pocket computer, I am going to press F4 to enter terminal. And you can see we got this funny plus minus character. For some reason, host mode sends it's either a 00 or 03 character, which gets echoed by the Pocket computer back. I don't know why it does that. I'm not sure what terminal mode it's trying to emulate. That's kind of strange. It's not mentioned in the manual. So I'm going to hit backspace on the Model 2 keyboard. Okay. Now on the Pocket computer, I'll type something like dir for directory, and we can see it also shows up locally on the Model 2. I'll hit enter. And it's showing the directory locally on the Model 2. It is also sending that via the serial link to the Pocket computer, the PC-2. Of course, the PC-2 only has a single line display, so it takes some effort pressing the arrow buttons to scroll around and see the screen. But as you can see, as I'm pressing the keys, we can roll around and see the screen. But for a display like this, it's really not the best interface. But there could be cases where the single line display would work fine. And of course, I've got those funky characters it sends out. And I'm just going to backspace those here, that way they don't get in the way. Now, something else interesting we might try is to run basic It's curious at this baud rate that some of the characters are getting scrambled going to the Pocket computer. This could be the inner character delay is not leaving enough time between characters for the Pocket computer to contend with. Something like that. But we can try to enter a program. And notice the punctuation worked this time. And not rum. How about run? Yay! We ran a program. I'm going to hit break locally. Okay, so it's not the easiest thing in the world to do with this small screen, but the terminal program on the Pocket computer is fully featured. There are some kinks you need to work out depending on what you're trying to talk to. Now let's have a look at the hardware setup. What does the connection look like to get all of this to work? So what about the hardware connections? What did we have to do there? Okay, well here you see the final product. We have the Pocket computer, the serial interface, and we have a null modem adapter that I put together, and just a 25-pin male-to-male serial or parallel cable, just a straight-through cable. Originally, I was experimenting using my laptop and a FTDI USB to serial interface, and I have a DB25 to DB9 null modem cable, and that worked fine with the FTDI interface because it was handling the DCD signal, the carrier detect, that type of thing. When you move over to this hardware, it doesn't do that automatically because this is not a modem. We're connecting two computers together. So I got out my serial breakout box, I wired up a null modem adapter, which I got the wiring pin out from this book. I've had this thing for years. It's got all sorts of stuff in it about old computers, DOS, connections, ASCII code, obsidic code, that type of thing. This is first edition. Copyright 1991. So about, 32 years ago? So, at any rate, still a very handy book. If you can get a copy of that, it's nice to have. But once I knew for sure that that is the wiring that was needed, I had this guy, which is just a board with a male and female connector on it. And there are solder pads in there, and they include some wire jumpers like that, which I cut in half and jumped across where it was needed for all 25 connections. I wrote null in there to remind me it's a null modem cable. And so it's kind of a pain having this big thing here, but I did wanted to show you on the video that it is in place. I could put this in the back of the computer and it would work fine. And then for connecting to the laptop, I could use a DB25 to DB9 adapter. That is what is on this end. And as you can see, getting, serial communications set up for vintage equipment isn't always straightforward. I hear people say sometimes, well, serial communication is a lot simpler than USB. Well, yes, but as we saw here, there were some issues with, one device having too short an inter-character delay for another device. And, the terminal program on the Model 2 didn't have the ability to set a delay after each line was sent, that type of thing. Different devices used control codes for different things. They might use different end-of-line characters, a carriage return line feed, just a carriage return. So to make things talk, you had to be able to configure those types of things. And sometimes that's kind of difficult depending on what you're trying to get to talk. I've also had this breakout board for ages. I finally just had changed the rubber feet on it. The original ones that had turned to goo, and I put these big ugly white things on there, but they do the job. And this just lets you disconnect the signals from going straight through and put jumpers on there. It has jumper blocks on the side so I could connect signals together and where they need to go. And there is a DB9, a DB25 on both sides, one male, one female. So you can even use it as a cable adapter if you need to. These are very, very handy. Well worth having one in your toolbox. Well, I hope you found that interesting. It was a lot of fun figuring out how to get the Model 2 here, talking with the PC-2. Kind of either end of the TRS-80 computing spectrum from the early 1980s. I think the Model 2 was released in '79, and this guy was released in 1982. So they're a few years apart, but it is a Model 2 and a PC-2, so it seemed like a good combination. Now, I am not the first guy to get a big gray box TRS-80 connected to PC-2. I know that for a fact. I talked by email to a guy that wrote some commercial software for the PC-2 back in the day, and he started out typing the programs into the PC-2 itself, and then eventually he got a TRS-80 Model 3 and the serial interface, and he would type in the programs on the Model 3 and send those to the PC-2 and test them out. That was a lot faster. It was a lot easier editing and copy and paste and that type of thing. It was just a lot nicer workflow. Now, I'm not sure what text editor he used or what terminal program or anything like that. I might have to ask him to see if he still remembers. It does seem like there was a bigger choice of programs for the Model 1 through 4 than for the Model 2. It was more of a business computer, so everything was more business applications. And I just haven't found the abundance of text editors comparatively between, say, a Model 1, 3, 4, as there is for the Model 2. But this is a very nice machine. It's been a lot of fun playing with. So coming up on this guy, we're going to rebuild the keyboard. I've got the Gotex here that came with it. They're set up as drive 0 and 1. This is drive 2. I want to get a third one and make a mini replica disk expansion system. The original disk expansion system was about as big or a little bigger than the computer itself. It held 3 8-inch full-size floppy drives, and it was designed to mount under the desk. And that way you had plenty of storage. You could have a boot disk and your data disk and program disk and things like that. And eventually they did come out with, hard drives, like 5-10 megabyte hard drive systems for this. There's a fella in Australia who's reproducing the hard drive controller cards. So I contacted him about that. I would like to get the hard drive controller card and get a Fred, which is a hard drive simulator, plus it does more. And that would be interesting. Maybe we make a little replica box for that as well to set with a mini replica of the disk expansion system. So if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. Just leave them in that comment section that's down there below. Thanks to everyone who helps support the Hey Birt channel through Patreon and other means. It's greatly appreciated. There's some information about that in the description below. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you. Oh, and the things I talked about, like the Model 2 archive and things like that, I always put those links in the description below, as long as if I use tools and things like that, I'll put them down there. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.